Hello, welcome back. It's been both a long and short couple of weeks. I've been away, but well needed. I am a little early, so we'll just sort of patiently wait here, arrive where we are. I'm hoping the technology works today. Seems to be kind of lagging a little bit, but we'll go with the flow and see what happens. Let's see here. It's always a gamble. I'm just watching to see if it's streaming or if it's lagging. There may be some lags. Let me just see if the mail's open. Okay. You just want to rest. Just noticing all these subtle places, maybe obvious places or subtle places where we're tense and contracted and hold on. Just offering the invitation to let that go. Permission to rest, relax, decide. And you can coordinate this with your exhale. So as you breathe in, as you breathe out, just giving that invitation to let go, to become heavier, to become more soft, relaxed, sunk. It can help to close your eyes to go inward, but if it's too much, if your mind's really busy and it's just agitating your mind, having your eyes closed, always feel free to open your eyes. Really honoring your own experience, your own inner knowing. In these meditations, it's not so much about creating an experience or getting anywhere, but resting right where we are. Noticing all the ways that we subtly resist in the body, in the mind, just being here as it is. And as we take these moments to pause from our habitual movement, from thing to thing, circumstance to circumstance, you might notice some emotion that's been lingering under the surface that wants to come. And this meditation can be space to allow that permission to move, to flow in whatever way it needs. Not to push it away or making it separate from this meditative experience, but to include even that. Just the raw emotional experience. We don't need to act out the emotional experience. There may be a time and a place where that can be helpful, but in this moment, we're just feeling the raw sensations of whatever it is. Maybe the gurgliness in the stomach, the hollowness in the gut of fear, the racing of the heart of anxiety, the tears of sadness. But even letting go of labeling it as anything, any particular emotion, we can just be with the raw sensation. And if nothing comes, we don't need to try to coerce anything to be there. We can just continue to rest in the body and the sensations of the body. Noticing what happens as we give this invitation to rest deeper, to become heavier. In a way, it's softening our guard. All of these subtle tensions and contractions in the body are this like sense of alertness, protection, defensiveness that we put between ourselves and life. In this moment, it's an opportunity to just explore what it's like to let them go. This doesn't mean they can't ever come back, or we can't use them as needed, or they don't have their place at times. To really experiment with what it feels like to let go of that layer of protection between us and life. And again, as we let go of these subtle or overt defenses, the emotions might come. And again, this can be a safe space where we can give ourselves permission to allow at least some of that emotion to come up to the surface, to be expressed and felt. And again, as it's so important, we're not trying to create any particular experience. We're not trying to force emotions to be there that aren't. We're not trying to force ourselves to be heavier or more open to our experience. We just offer this invitation. And then be with our experience as it is. to allow our experience to be as it is, even if it may not be what we would like or prefer. And if there's resistance, form of thoughts of not wanting it to be this way or wanting it to be different, or the mind's racing to try to, in some ways, subtly escape the felt sense of the body, we can just notice these tendencies. And as we notice them soften into this open space that can allow it to be as it is. A space of open allowing as we soften deeper back further into our experience. As we notice contractions in the body, the tendency might be to want to make them go away or make them relax. And we can just notice that tendency within ourselves to try to make it different. And there's nothing wrong with this desire for it to relax, to be open and spacious and free. Of course, this is a very natural human tendency. We don't want to feel contracted and cut off. And yet, if that is our experience, can we be with it without exerting this agenda, without exerting this force? It's almost subtle form of violence where we're coercing or trying to coerce our experience to be different. And this is so often our tendency. It's to turn ourselves into an object and manipulate that object to be who we think it needs to be, how it needs to feel, how it needs to look, how it needs to express itself, what it needs to be okay. And there's a space within us that can allow all of that to be as it is. As we simply notice these tendencies, there can be space that arises around them, where they're not necessarily gone or transformed into anything, but can be less identification with them, less angst or resistance felt in their appearance or by their appearance. Just continue to breathe. Again, seeing if there's any more space to rest deeper in our experience, to soften. To become heavy, to let go. What if there is nowhere to go but here? Nothing to do but to feel and be with this here as it is. Nothing that inherently needs to be different. What if all of life is simply to bring us back here, now? And an invitation to feel this, here, whatever we might be feeling, in any moment. This can be a radical shift in how we perceive life as being what we get and where we go. And trying to feel certain things and avoid others. Rather an inward focus. Not that we do nothing or avoid life, but that we live life in a way where whatever appears is an invitation to once again reconnect and meet ourselves in a deeper way. This can be difficult to take in or accept or to really contemplate, especially if the conditioning is so strong to get somewhere, to be something, to become something, to have something. But who is this one that's always trying to get somewhere and be something and become something? When we really pause and look, we can see that it's simply a collection of ideas that we have about ourselves. conditioning, layers of conditioning and expectation of what we need, what we've been told that we need to be okay, to be happy, to be fulfilled, to be worthy and valuable and lovable. And this invitation is an opportunity to turn our direction inward, to really observe all of these ideas, conditioning, and expectation that we layer on top of our experience, that again separate us from this very moment, this rawness of whatever is appearing. And again, we simply breathe and notice what's here. Notice any tension in the body that may have accumulated. Once again, just seeing if there's any space, not by trying to make it happen, but by inviting it to happen, becoming receptive for it to happen. Letting it happen. And just being with what's here. Not so much the story that we've created about what's here, the narrative of what's here, but the raw sensations, the raw experience of what's here. And from this space of allowing, of openness, of receptivity to our experiences, where true knowing arises. When we give ourselves space without the story to be as we are, the knowing, the wisdom of life has this chance to avail itself to us, to become known. And again, we do this not so much with the agenda of looking for answers, but by creating this spacious openness, allowing whatever wants to become known to become known. Where we make ourselves available to listen. listen to our experience. When we're busy trying to be something or become something or get somewhere, we're no longer truly listening. We have our minds made up. We're moving from a mental idea of what needs to happen, rather from this deeper wisdom of life as it informs and wants to move through us, guide us, live us. When we're moving from the mind, we're moving from our past. All the ideas and conditioning we've learned about who we need to be. To be okay, to be happy, to be worthy. And then we project this onto the future, this future self that we create of where we need to then get to. As we really pause and look at the mind, we can see how it flip-flops from past to future, past to future. That when we really pause in this moment, there is no need of thought, there is no thought. And this isn't to discount the mind or that the mind shouldn't be there. But we can begin to see the patterns of the mind. How they're always taking us in some subtle or overt way away from what's really here now. Even how we relate to our experience now can be subtly conditioned by our experience of this emotion or of emotions in the past. Or we can withhold those emotional experiences, projecting into the future that it'll mean that I won't be okay if I allow this emotion, or that maybe it will never stop. Or maybe I'll be too vulnerable. So again, we layer another condition on top of our experience as it is. And then we come back into this spacious openness of what's here. It doesn't need to be anything extraordinary. It's just the simple sensations of whatever is here now. Noticing of the mind, noticing of the sensations, noticing of the contractions of the breath. Noticing even if there's resistance to being here. Without turning any of it into a problem or turning any of it into a story of not enough. Simply resting as we are. Can almost be this offering. This way is offering of ourselves over to God, over to this moment, something beyond our personal sense of self. And we can begin to notice our breath again. It's this effortlessness of the breath. I want to sense it's not us breathing, but us being breathed. And our heart beating. We don't do our heart beating, but our heart is beating in us, as us. And not even our mind. We're not doing our thinking is happening to us, in us. And it's this way as we begin to see that these things are naturally just appearing within us, our sense of spaciousness and openness and receptivity can expand. We are really a creation of life, not separate. Not created and then left alone to figure it out and do everything. Rather, there's this natural movement of life in us and through us, expressing as us. Even the words we speak, we really have no idea of what words will come. We are there open and available, receptive to it all. We can begin to open our eyes. Still, as we open our eyes, not leaving the meditation. The meditation doesn't need to be this discrete event that happens during a certain time, but rather that's lived through us in each moment. It's this quality, this open receptivity to life that is the meditation. It's not necessarily something that we do. So often when we're doing meditation, there's someone there with an agenda that's trying to create a certain experience. Where this is more about opening to our experience just here as it is in its ordinariness. And I love that and hate that. I've noticed in my own experience how that can be very hard. Because the mind has this idea of extraordinariness. That to be open, to be available to life is not enough. That I can only open and be available to life when it looks a certain way. When it meets my ideas of how I think it should be. Rather, as we go through life, maybe we begin to notice that life is never going to always be our way. That if we live from this place of life needing to be a certain way, we're constantly disappointed, we're constantly frustrated, we're constantly striving. There's this continual resistance, and even when we get what we want, there's this fear that it's not going to last, that it's going to leave us at some point, and then there's this grasping of trying to hold on to it. That we can never totally be free and open to our experience because there's this movement of fear within us. We could spend our whole life waiting for these extraordinary moments. And it's not that they don't happen, and it's not that they're not important or worthy. Or significant in some way. But yet they come and go. They never last. Life is not meant to be one extraordinary moment after another. And maybe as we begin to really look at our experience too, we can see how not getting what we want all the time actually helps us in so many other ways. It opens our heart and gives us empathy and compassion for other people that have maybe experienced hardships that we've experienced, or hardships even that we haven't experienced, but just knowing understanding, having felt hardships in life. It takes us away from this subtle sense of ownership of our experience, of control, of separation, of being righteous and better than others. These moments that test us can dissolve us in our humanity, our collective humanity. And they're just simply the nature of experience. That experience itself is one that comes from a dualistic nature where there's opposites. There's highs and lows, goods and bads, likes and dislikes. And as we get challenged in those moments, it can really bring us to this deeper place within ourselves. To not be so attached to our ideas of how life needs to be for us to be okay. As long as life is always giving us exactly what we want, we can still delude ourselves that it's getting what I want that makes life worth living. That happiness is found in outcomes, in holding on to my expectations and getting and manipulating life to be how I want it to be, manipulating myself and others to be how I want them to be. By opening and allowing our experience to be as it is, even in these difficult moments, allowing our heart to break open, can allow us to connect from this deeper place within ourselves. This place that's not touched so much by what happens in the circumstances of life. Again, it's not so much that we can't want what we want or move in a certain direction or have preferences. But when we're so attached to them, we can feel when we're really attached to life being a certain way. There's this clenchedness, this resistance, this spinning of a story. And it can feel so natural and normal that this is how life is, but we can also begin to see, if we really open ourselves to seeing it, how much discomfort it creates within us. Always striving to make life be a certain way, making ourselves be a certain way. Holding on to all of these expectations and demanding life to be extraordinary. That they can all actually get in the way of the simplest pleasure of simply being here in this moment as ourself with whatever life is calling forth within us. To letting go into this receptive place, this place of living where we truly know that life is living us. That we don't control our heartbeat, we don't control so many things in our experience, and yet we think that this is our life and we're in control, that we're driving our life, that it's up to us to make certain things happen. And again, it's not that we then throw everything away and become complacent and do nothing. But we can move through life from this more open, receptive place where there's less expectation and demand. Less resistance to life. We can begin to challenge these thoughts that life needs to look a certain way for us to be okay. Is that really true? I've worked with people in all different conditions and seen how some people can be happy, with a terminal diagnosis, and some people can be absolutely miserable. Some people can be happy being with different physical disabilities, cognitive disabilities. Really taking that in has opened my eyes to see that so many of my ideas, this righteousness that I had about life, about what I needed to be okay, that I deserved these things, that because I was alive, I deserve these things, and I need them to make me happy. Taking in these moments as this meditative inquiry, is that true? Seeing how people can have different reactions to different circumstances, and they could still be happy. That there may be, it just brought up with it, there may be this place that maybe my happiness isn't found so much in circumstances, in holding on to my expectations of who I am and what I need, and what this life is all about, and where I need to go, where I need to take it to be okay. And I'm by no means saying that this doesn't still play out in my experience. But these moments of life, these simple, ordinary moments, can evoke, if we truly open ourselves to the moment and really want to know what's true, where true happiness and true fulfillment lies. What's the truth of who I am and what this life is all about? We can begin to see all experiences that happen to us in this profound, miraculous way that's showing us the answers. Where our whole life then begins to be this contemplative, meditative inquiry. Because we open ourselves and make ourselves available to these questions with the sincerity of our heart, life begins to give us the answers. And not the answers in such a way where they sort of appease the mind, but an answer in a way where we live ourselves almost out of the question, where the question dissolves. But we take these questions that are really true for us in our heart. What is true happiness? What is true fulfillment? What is true love or peace? And then we don't just take those questions and do them with our own thing over here, or just go into the mind for some mental answer that we've been told or taught. But to live the question, to bring the question into our life. Then all of these experiences that seem so totally ordinary, like showing up and working with someone maybe that has a disability of some sort. We might think it's in the way of getting where we want, in the way of our life. But rather, these moments can then open us up to revealing deeper truths about life. What is this showing me? We can be stuck in the question, why would God want someone to be disabled? Why it seems so wrong? Or we can open ourselves in a different way where we make, what is this teaching us? What is this teaching me or showing me about life, about where happiness resides? And again, we're not in this preconceived idea, this flip-flopping of the mind, going to the mind, which is full of all of the answers of which it's been already told or taught. It opens us up to this fresh, new wisdom to come forth from this deeper place. Just as we did in the guided meditation, that we still ourselves in the silence and allow answers to come. We bring the question and then we just let it go and let the answers begin to come. And they can come then in this fresh, insightful way that is not layered upon by our conditioning, our ideas of what's right and wrong and good or bad, or what happiness is or isn't. What love is or isn't, fulfillment is or isn't. That deeper wisdom can arise of what this life is about. What is the true source of happiness? You can see that I've been stuck in my mind for all of these years thinking my happiness comes from getting what I want, from holding on to my expectations, that I cannot let go of these expectations or life is going to be horrible. But yet as we begin to soften and open up and have this curious attention to our experience, we can begin to actually, maybe my experience, the fear is so much about the future, of what my future will be like, that if I let go of these expectations, my future is going to be horrible. But as we begin to open up, we might see that my right now is horrible because I'm never fully available. I'm always distracted. I'm always taken away. I'm always subtly resisting my experience and trying to make it different so that it meets up with my expectations. That we're actually creating the fear that we believe will happen in the future right now by holding on to these ideas of what life needs to be. That if we hold any expectation, we're immediately in judgment as soon as something happens. Our mind isn't open and free and available to what's happening. It's already there, judging and evaluating whether this is good or bad, or worthy of my time or not worthy of my time, or holding up my self-image or in the way of my self-image. We're not free and available. You can see by holding on to these expectations, we're always fighting our experience in some way. And these expectations, when we look at them too, we can see that we feel that by what do we really feel we will get when we meet these experiences, this expectation. When we really look, it's so often it's peace, it's love, it's joy, it's fulfillment. But this is a question for us to look for ourselves. Really, what do I believe I will get when my expectations are met? And maybe, just maybe, is it available here and now? And maybe, just maybe, my expectations are the very thing that's in the way of me connecting with these deeper things, deeper qualities. Again, this isn't something that we do once and then it's done, it's solved. These are deep inquiries that we can live out in our life, to really sit with and question and be honest with ourselves. And maybe the answers don't come right away, maybe they take time. But there can be, from this open stillness, when we ask the question, this aha, this is what I'm really looking for in life. That maybe love isn't something out there that only happens when all of my expectations are met. But me being truly, authentically open and available to this moment as it is, to this person that I'm with now. That again, these layers, when we have all of these ideas of what these concepts mean, and we can delude ourselves from the experience that they're not here now. That it has to look like this pretty package in order for me to experience that. And there can be a lot of emotion and pain that come up when we really see, the patterns that we've been holding on to, or meet the fear even of letting go of our expectations. I've discovered a lot of that in myself lately, is that even though I can see the pattern, I can see the pain of the pattern of holding on to these expectations, these ideas of what life is and where it needs to go. But to truly let them go can be a different story. It can be this feeling like we're sucked in the gut, like the fear, what will happen? What will happen if I let go? And again, we can project all these ideas of what will happen. But the truth is, we don't know. It's the fear of the unknown that's really in the way. Being able to truly let go, be available. Because these expectations give us a sense of control, of power. But again, as we meet them, we can begin to see how also they keep us separate from life, separate from others, separate even from ourselves as we continue to battle and fight ourselves. This isn't an easy journey. It can be simple to see, but to be truly willing to drop into that seeing, to be really willing to own that seeing and to know that seeing. Even that isn't something that we can control. So often I've even been bound by that sense. I see it, so I should be able to let it go. I should be able to let these expectations go. I should. And as soon as we do that, then we're once again at war with ourselves, trying to control our experience again. Trying to control our controlling. And so this too is then an invitation to meet that, to notice that, to welcome that even. That even though I can see how my expectations, that there's still this unwillingness within me to let them go. And so we simply meet ourselves there, right where we are. As soon as we tell ourselves it needs to be different or should be different, then we go to war once again. split ourselves in two. The one that's simply just feeling what it's feeling, and the one that thinks it needs to be different. The invitation is to really see for ourselves how holding on to these expectations keeps us constantly on this cycle of trying to get things from life, trying to manipulate life. And to really look at what we believe our expectations will give us. And holding all of that in this open, receptive space. So we're no longer fighting ourselves. We're allowing even those dynamics to play out within us. We're allowing the surrender to happen, the transformation to happen. As soon as we allow all of that to just be as it is, life somehow mysteriously takes care of it all. Takes care of it all, not in the way of getting us what we want or giving us specific answers, but dissolving that war, that sense of separation within us. Those two parts then collapse into one, into just being. And none of this is something that we can control. We only offer ourselves to life, offer ourselves to the availability to see things clearly, to see things as they are. And open ourselves for this deeper wisdom to come forth and guide us into the resolution of those questions, or the dissolution of those questions. Without us once again going to war and creating this, I need to do it, I need to get somewhere, I need to figure this out so I can be okay. To rest in that deeper part of us that's even okay, even with this going on. To rest there. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for joining me again. I will see you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.